Obsolete me? My name is Nathan Rivera, 49, and I stood frozen as Owen Mitchell, the new CTO at Sterling Partners, gutted my 10-year legacy with a single word. "Your system's a relic," he sneered, clutching his tablet like a weapon. "We're dumping it for Nexus Law Suite, and you're out by Thursday." My software saved this firm millions, and now they're tossing me aside for a cloud-based disaster? The new chief technology officer at Sterling Partners stood in my office doorway, tablet in hand, delivering his verdict on the software system that had quietly saved our firm millions in billable hour tracking and compliance reporting. "The future is cloud-based solutions," he continued, not bothering to sit down. "We are moving to Nexus Law Suite, industry standard, proven track record. Your creation will be phased out by the end of the year." I saved my work and looked up at him. "Nexus Law Suite?" "That is correct. They handle all the major firms in Seattle, Microsoft, Amazon, the federal contractors. We will be in good company." "Good company?" I shot back, my voice tight with fury. "My system never crashed, not once. You're trading reliability for a shiny logo." Owen's lip curled. "Progress, Nathan. You wouldn't understand." The irony was not lost on me. For 10 years, I had watched attorneys panic when other firms' systems crashed during critical depositions or regulatory filings. Now we were joining that crowd. My system had never failed, not once. During the Carlson class action, when we had to track 300,000 billable hours across 52 attorneys in real time, my software handled it without a hiccup. During the federal investigation of Pacific Aerospace last year, when the government demanded minute-by-minute billing records going back 4 years, my system generated the reports in under 12 minutes. "When do you need me to start the transition?" I asked. "We will not be needing a transition. Nexus Law has their own implementation team. Your services will no longer be required after Thursday." I nodded. "Understood." He turned to leave, then paused. "Nothing personal, Nathan. This is just business evolution. You understand?" "Of course." After he left, I sat in the quiet of my office. I had built something here, something that worked, something that mattered. But I was not bitter. In this business, you learn that everything is temporary. Projects end, systems get replaced, people move on. But I also knew something else. I knew how these cloud vendors operated. I knew their limitations, their failure points, their support structures. I had seen the aftermath when firms switched to industry standard solutions. The emergency calls at midnight, the lost data, the scrambling to recreate billing records for regulatory deadlines. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the business cards I had printed 3 years ago but never used. Nathan Rivera, independent software consultant, clean, simple, professional. I had always planned to go independent eventually. Perhaps the timing was not entirely my choice, but the destination remained the same. I came to Sterling Partners 10 years ago, after the crash claimed my startup. My partner and I had built inventory management software for small manufacturers, but when the funding dried up, I needed steady work. Law firms were stable, conservative, they paid well, and demanded results. My first week at Sterling, I watched 3 attorneys lose an entire day of billable work when their legacy system corrupted a case file. The managing partner, Eleanor Sterling herself, asked if I could build something better, something that will not fail when we need it most. She said, "I spent 8 months studying how attorneys actually worked, not how they said they worked, but how they really operated under pressure. Late nights, impossible deadlines, constantly shifting priorities. I built the system around those realities, redundant backups, offline capability, intuitive interfaces that worked even when people were exhausted and stressed. The first major test came during the Redmond merger. 52 attorneys, 250,000 documents, 24 months of discovery. My system tracked every minute, every expense, every communication. When the client questioned a $5 million 0-cents billing statement, we provided itemized reports down to 5-minute increments. They paid without argument. Word spread. Other law firms tried to poach me. Software companies offered to license my code, but Eleanor Sterling doubled my salary and gave me equity in the firm. "You are part of the family now," she said. Then, Eleanor retired last year. Her daughter took over as managing partner, But the real power shifted to the new CTO, a Stanford Business School graduate named Owen Mitchell, who had never worked at a law firm before. He brought Silicon Valley thinking to a downtown Seattle legal practice. Disruption, innovation, moving fast and breaking things. Innovation. I'd challenged him in a meeting last month. You're gutting a system that's bulletproof for untested hype. He'd laughed, dismissive. You're too attached, Nathan. The future's in the cloud. I noticed the changes slowly. My access to certain financial reports was restricted. My direct line to the managing partner was replaced with scheduled bi-weekly meetings. New policies required all technology decisions to be approved by the CTO's office. When I requested budget for system improvements, the response was always the same. We are evaluating our technology stack. Holistically, Owen hired consultants from Bain to audit our systems. They spent 4 weeks interviewing people and reviewing documentation. Their report, which I was not allowed to see, apparently recommended migrating to best-in-class cloud solutions. The writing was on the wall, but I thought we had more time. I thought Owen would at least want to understand what my system actually did before scrapping it. I was wrong. Now, cleaning out my office on Thursday afternoon, I realized that 10 years of institutional knowledge was walking out the door with me. The system would keep running for a few more weeks, but when Nexus Law took over, every custom workflow, every specialized report, every integration with the firm's other systems would disappear. They would learn soon enough what they had lost. The call came 4 weeks later while I was having coffee at a shop near my condo. I had been using the time to update my resume and reach out to former colleagues. The consulting business was slowly taking shape, but I was in no hurry. My savings could carry me for months. Nathan, this is Sarah from Sterling Partners. Is this a good time? Sarah was one of the senior paralegals. Smart woman, always treated the support staff well. Of course, how are things? Not good. The new system. There are problems, serious problems. I set down my coffee. What kind of problems? It lost all our billable hour tracking for the Carlson case. 4 months of work just gone. Owen says it is a temporary database issue, but the trial starts Monday and we need those billing records for evidence. Gone? I said, my voice rising. I warned Owen this would happen. He didn't listen. The Carlson case, the class action that had been generating steady revenue for 3 years, the same case where my system had tracked every detail flawlessly. Have you contacted Nexus Law Support? We have been trying for 8 hours. They say they are working on it, but they cannot give us a timeline. Owen is, well, he is having a difficult day, I could imagine. In my system, this would have been a 6-minute fix, full backup restoration, verification, and testing. But Nexus Law operated differently. Their support was outsourced to the Philippines. Their backup procedures were automated and opaque. When things went wrong, customers waited in line. Is there anything specific you need from me? Actually, yes. The managing partner wants to know if you could help us as a consultant, just temporarily until we get this sorted out. I paused. What about Owen? Owen is focused on working with Nexus Law to resolve the technical issues. This would be a separate engagement, business continuity consulting. A polite way of saying they needed someone to clean up the mess. They're begging me now, I said, a bitter edge in my tone, after throwing me out. Sarah sighed. Nathan, it's a mess. Please. My consulting rate is $350, 0 cents per hour. That should be fine. When can you start? I can be there in 45 minutes. After I hung up, I sat for a moment processing what had just happened. 4 weeks ago, they fired me to save money on an obsolete system. Now, they wanted to pay me 3 times my old hourly wage to fix the problems caused by their cost-saving measure. But this was just the beginning. Carlson was a relatively simple case. Wait until they tried to run month-end billing. Wait until they faced their first regulatory audit. Wait until they realized that my obsolete system had handled dozens of integrations and custom processes that Nexus Law could not replicate. I finished my coffee and walked to my car. Owen Mitchell was about to get an expensive education in the difference between industry standard and actually working. My business cards were in the glove compartment. It was time to put them to use. When I arrived at Sterling Partners, the office felt different. The usual afternoon energy was replaced by a tense quiet. People huddled around computer screens, typing frantically or speaking in hushed tones on phone calls. I recognized the atmosphere from my startup days. Crisis management mode. Sarah met me at reception. "Thank God you are here. It is worse than I thought." She led me to conference room C, where my old workstation had been set up. Someone had the foresight to preserve my development environment on a separate machine before the system migration. Smart move. "What is the current status?" I asked. "Nexus Law says the data is not lost, just temporarily inaccessible due to a synchronization error. They estimate 6 to 8 hours for full restoration, but we do not have 6 to 8 hours. Judge Thompson wants those billing records by 4:00 p.m. tomorrow, or she will consider sanctions for discovery violations." I logged into my old system. Everything was exactly as I had left it 4 weeks ago. Complete billing records for Carlson, detailed time tracking, expense allocations, document correlations, all of it intact and immediately accessible. "I can generate the reports Judge Thompson needs in about 12 minutes, I said. "Do it." While the system compiled the data, I heard raised voices from down the hall. Through the conference room's glass walls, I could see Owen Mitchell pacing in his office, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing emphatically at someone who was not there. "He's crumbling," Sarah whispered. Told the partners it was under control. Now they're screaming at him. The Carlson billing report finished processing. 24 months of legal work, 962 attorney hours, 2789 paralegal hours, $189,000, 0 cents in documented expenses, all formatted according to court specifications. I printed 3 copies and handed them to Sarah. "This is incredible," she said, flipping through the pages. "Nexus Law told us it would take their forensics team 3 days just to identify where the data went." "Different architectures," I said. "My system stores everything locally with real-time cloud backup. Their system processes everything in the cloud first, then caches locally. When the cloud connection fails, everything downstream stops working." "Can you fix their system?" "I cannot fix their system, but I can provide parallel data recovery for any case files that existed before the migration." Sarah nodded. "How much?" $350 per hour plus expenses." "Done." She left to deliver the reports, and I began assessing the scope of the problem. My old system contained complete historical data for 312 active cases, 214 closed cases, and approximately 500,000 individual billing entries going back 10 years. All of it was perfectly organized and immediately accessible. Nexus Law, meanwhile, had successfully migrated about 55% of the data before encountering what their technical support classified as unforeseen integration complexity. 25 minutes later, Owen Mitchell appeared in the doorway. He looked like he had not slept in days. "Nathan, I heard you were helping with the Carlson situation." "Temporary consulting engagement," I said. "Business continuity support." "Good, that is good. We appreciate you stepping in during this transition period." Transition period, as if this was a planned phase rather than a complete system failure. "Transition?" I snapped. "Your system's a disaster, Owen. I'm saving your neck and you know it." He flinched, but recovered. "It's temporary, Nathan. You're overreacting." "How long until Nexus Law has everything working normally?" I asked. "They are confident that full functionality will be restored within 72 hours. This is just typical migration turbulence. Growing pains. Every major firm experiences this when upgrading to enterprise-class solutions." I nodded politely. Owen clearly believed what he was saying, which made him either naive or a remarkably good actor. In my experience, when cloud vendors said 72 hours during a crisis, the real timeline was usually measured in weeks. "In the meantime," Owen continued, "perhaps you could assist with a few other data recovery tasks, just to keep things running smoothly while Nexus Law completes their optimization process." "Of course. What do you need?" "Monthly billing reports for all active cases, client invoicing data for the past quarter." He paused, looking uncomfortable. "The partnership accounting reports for the year-end audit." Partnership accounting, the most complex and sensitive data in the entire firm. The numbers that determined how profits were distributed among the founding partners. If Nexus Law had corrupted that data, Owen was not just facing an operational crisis. He was facing a potential mutiny from the people who actually owned the company. "I can have preliminary reports ready by tomorrow morning," I said. "Excellent. And Nathan, I appreciate your professionalism during this situation. I know the transition has been difficult for everyone." After he left, I opened my laptop and began documenting everything, every request, every timeline, every promise Nexus Law had made and broken. Owen might think this was temporary turbulence, but I suspected we were just getting started. The partnership accounting data told the complete story. I spent 5 hours that evening reconstructing the financial reports that Nexus Law had somehow corrupted during their migration process. What I found was worse than a simple data loss. It was systematic incompetence. Nexus Law had migrated the easy data first: client contact information, basic case files, simple billing entries, but they had completely failed to understand the complex relationships between different data types. Partner profit distributions were calculated based on weighted formulas that considered billable hours, client origination credits, expense management, and seniority factors. My system had automated these calculations using custom algorithms developed over 10 years. Nexus Law's system treated each data point as independent, destroying the mathematical relationships that made the calculations possible. Worse, they had apparently decided that some of my custom fields were non-standard and simply deleted them during migration. Years of carefully tracked metrics, client satisfaction scores, case complexity ratings, efficiency measurements were gone forever. I called Sarah at 9:00 p.m. "How bad is the real situation?" "Bad." Nexus Law pushed back their timeline again. Now they are saying 7 to 10 business days for complete restoration. Owen is in emergency meetings with the managing partner and the founding partners. There is talk of bringing in forensic data recovery specialists. "What about the Carlson deadline? Your report saved us. Judge Thompson accepted them without question, but Owen is telling everyone that Nexus Law provided the data, not you." "He's stealing my work?" I said, my voice shaking with anger. "He's lying to cover his failure." Interesting. Owen was claiming credit for my work while simultaneously dealing with the crisis his decision had created. "Sarah, I need to ask you something confidential. Before the migration, did anyone from Nexus Law actually test their system with our data?" "Not that I know of. They said their migration tools were proven with thousands of law firms." "Did they send anyone here to understand our custom workflows?" "No. They said everything would be handled remotely." I had suspected as much. Nexus Law had sold Owen a standard package and convinced him that our unique requirements would somehow fit their generic solution. It was like ordering a custom suit through a catalog. One more question. How much is Sterling paying Nexus Law annually? I am not supposed to know that, but I handle the invoice processing. $1 million, 0 cents per year plus implementation costs. $1 million, 0 cents. My old salary was $150,000, 0 cents, plus benefits and equity. They were paying Nexus Law 6 times what they paid me for a system that did not work. "Nathan, can I ask you something? Could your old system handle everything we are trying to do with Nexus Law?" "It was handling everything for 10 years. Then why did Owen replace it?" That was the question I had been asking myself for weeks. Owen was not stupid. His resume was impressive. Stanford Business School, consulting experience at top firms, successful technology implementations at previous companies. So why had he made such a catastrophic decision? The answer came to me while I was reviewing the Nexus Law contract terms that Sarah had quietly shared. Owen had not just bought software, he had bought a relationship. Nexus Law was owned by Pinnacle Consulting, the same firm where Owen had worked before joining Sterling. His former colleagues were now his vendors. It was not about technology. It was about Owen proving that he could bring big firm solutions to a mid-sized practice. It was about demonstrating his value through expensive, visible changes rather than quiet, effective maintenance. My system worked too well. It was invisible, reliable, and boring. Owen needed something that looked impressive in PowerPoint presentations to the partners. Unfortunately for Owen, the partners cared more about the quarterly profit distributions that my system calculated than the impressive features that Nexus Law promised. and those profit calculations were currently impossible to generate. Tomorrow, I would deliver the partnership accounting reports that Nexus Law could not provide. Owen would have to explain to the founding partners why their expensive new system could not handle the most basic function of law firm management. My consulting rate was about to become a bargain. The next morning, I arrived at Sterling Partners with 3 sets of printed reports and a proposal that would change everything. The partnership meeting was scheduled for 11 o'clock AMI, and I wanted to be ready. Sarah met me at the elevator. Owen has been here since 5 o'clock AMI. Nexus Law pushed back their timeline again. Now they are saying 3 weeks for full data recovery. The partners are furious. What about the quarterly distributions? That is why they need you. Nexus Law says their system cannot replicate your profit allocation formulas without significant custom development. They estimate 8 months and an additional $400,000, 0 cents, in consulting fees. 8 months. By then, the partners would miss their quarterly distributions entirely. In a law firm, that was grounds for dissolving the management agreement and finding new leadership. Has anyone told the partners that my system can generate those reports right now? That is why I called you yesterday. The managing partner specifically requested that you attend the meeting. I had worked with the managing partner, Claire Sterling, for 6 years before her mother retired. She was practical, decisive, and completely uninterested in technology for its own sake. She cared about results. Owen's finished, Sarah said quietly. Claire knows he lied about the Carlson data. She's livid. At 11 o'clock, I am sharp. I walked into the main conference room carrying my laptop and the printed reports. 9 partners sat around the mahogany table, with Owen at the far end looking like he was facing a firing squad. Nathan, Claire said, standing to shake my hand. Thank you for coming. We understand you have been helping us navigate some temporary technical difficulties. I am happy to help however I can. Owen cleared his throat. Nathan has been providing excellent support during our migration to Nexus Law. The data recovery process has been more complex than anticipated, but we are confident that full functionality will be restored soon. How soon? Asked Margaret Chen, one of the founding partners. Nexus Law estimates 3 weeks for complete system restoration. However, they can provide basic functionality immediately, and Nathan has been generating interim reports using archived data. Interim reports, repeated another partner. What exactly does that mean? I set the printed partnership reports on the table. These are your complete profit distributions for the quarter, calculated using the same formulas that have been in place for 10 years. Every billable hour, every expense allocation, every client origination credit. The data is complete and accurate. Claire picked up the reports and flipped through them. This looks identical to what we received last quarter. Because it is identical, same system, same calculations, same data sources. But I thought your system was obsolete, said Margaret. Owen shifted uncomfortably. The strategic decision to migrate to Nexus Law was based on long-term scalability and integration capabilities. Scalability, I said, my voice cutting through the room. Your system lost critical data, Owen. Mine never did. Explain that to them. Owen, Claire said quietly, help me understand something. You replaced a system that worked perfectly with a system that does not work at all, and now we are paying Nathan 3 times his old salary to recreate the reports that his old system generated automatically. The migration challenges are temporary. Nexus Law is an industry-leading solution used by major firms across the country. Which major firms? I asked. Owen looked at me sharply. Excuse me. You mentioned that Nexus Law handles all the major firms in Seattle. Microsoft, Amazon, federal contractors. I am curious which specific law firms use their billing system. That information is proprietary. Actually, it is not. I opened my laptop and connected to the projector. Nexus Law's client list is publicly available on their website. They serve 52 law firms nationwide. The largest has 38 attorneys. Sterling Partners has 79 attorneys. You are implementing a system designed for firms less than half your size. The silence in the room was absolute. Claire Sterling leaned forward. Nathan, what would it cost to restore your original system as our primary platform? I had been waiting for this question for 4 weeks. I would need to evaluate the current state of the infrastructure, but I estimate 50 hours of restoration work at my consulting rate. After that, I would recommend a maintenance contract to prevent future disruptions. And your consulting rate is $350 per hour. Owen's face had gone completely pale. The vote was unanimous. 9 partners, 9 hands raised in favor of terminating the Nexus Law contract and restoring my original system. Owen sat motionless as Claire Sterling read the resolution aloud. Effective immediately, Nathan Rivera is authorized to restore the firm's previous billing and case management system. All data migration activities with Nexus Law are suspended pending legal review of contract termination procedures. Margaret Chen looked directly at Owen. We will also be conducting a comprehensive review of all technology decisions made in the past year, including vendor selection processes and due diligence procedures. Owen finally spoke. I believe this is a mistake. Nexus Law is a proven solution. These migration issues are temporary. Owen, Claire said, Nexus Law has cost us 8 weeks of productivity, nearly lost our Carlson case, and made it impossible to calculate partner distributions. Nathan has solved every problem in less than 24 hours using a system you declared obsolete. But the long-term scalability of a system that does not work is 0. I connected my laptop to the main server and began the restoration process. 10 years of development work, carefully preserved on backup drives, began flowing back into the firm's infrastructure. Database connections reestablished, custom workflows reactivated. Integration points with accounting, document management, and client portals came back online. How long will this take? Asked Claire. 5 hours for complete restoration, another 3 hours for testing and verification, and then we will be fully operational. Better than fully operational. I have been developing improvements for 4 weeks. The restored system will be more efficient than what you had before. Owen stood up abruptly. I need to make some calls regarding contract termination procedures. After he left, Margaret turned to me. Nathan, we owe you an apology. Letting Owen eliminate your position was a serious error in judgment. I understand. Change is difficult to evaluate when you are not deeply familiar with the technical details. Would you consider returning as a permanent employee? I saved my work and looked around the conference room. 4 weeks ago, I had been escorted out as an obsolete relic. Now they wanted me back as their savior. I appreciate the offer, but I think the consulting arrangement works better for everyone. You get guaranteed system reliability without the overhead of a full-time position. I get the flexibility to work with multiple clients. 4 other firms have contacted me this week. Word travels fast when law firms have system failures. 8 months later, Sterling Partners settled their breach of contract lawsuit with Nexus Law for $250,000. 0 cents. Owen Mitchell was gone, forced out after the partners discovered his ties to Pinnacle Consulting. My consulting business now spanned 15 law firms across Washington and Oregon, each desperate for systems that worked. Claire Sterling called with news of their best quarter ever thanks to my restored system's 15% efficiency boost. She offered a new project, integrating a Tacoma office. I agreed, but as I worked, a weight lingered. Success didn't erase the betrayal. I'd built something lasting, but at the cost of years given to a firm that discarded me. My phone buzzed. Sarah, new CTO wants you. Rates $600 per hour. I smiled faintly. The market valued me now, but the scars of Sterling's dismissal stayed, a quiet reminder that even victories come with a price.